The instability of the waterfront caused a lot of problems with inside the family structure itself, to the point where a lot of longshoremen actually have 2 and sometimes 3 families, and there were a lot of longshoremen that didn't have any family at all.
Well, it was something to hear Stevie tell the story there. I never realized that he really had his head around that whole dynamic. I see it the same way. It does take a lot and a strong woman to love a longshoreman, just because of the hills and valleys. Our stories are close on those different trials and tribulations. It's a tough job, really tough job. When Stevie talked about the second family, I've actually experienced that same thing. Never been being able to plan anything. There were a lot of times my first wife, would have to go on trips by herself, banquets by herself, or call someone to take that ticket that I had already purchased, that extra ticket. So it was just a really, really tough thing. I watched my father go through it, the planning of different things, and it was a really tough time. But again, if you've got the right person beside you, you can make it through.
I think it's been very difficult for my wife. They would go through periods when we got busy where you hardly seen each other. Again, missing multiple things. Every time we planned something, ships would come in. When there was nothing planned, there would be no work.
My mom and dad raised 9. Many a days you got up, you didn't see your father, and you went to bed and you didn't see him because of the long hours that they worked. But it gave the older siblings, my oldest sister, Catho, she was like a second mother figure. For a long period, I used to call my brother Norby, Papa Nonoi. I saw him more than my father. So the fathers were absent a lot, but the time that he spent with us was quality time.
It's just the crazy hours that they had, because you could come and you could work at the Providence part, and then the next day maybe Quonset or Portsmouth. They get right back up the next morning to go. Sometimes they used to leave right from the Providence part and go right to the next shift there. And that would be tiring, but they would do it.
That takes getting used to. A lot of people complain, a longshoreman's wife. What do you have to do? Well, for one, you have to keep him strong and healthy, because, of course, he's the breadwinner. He's the one that makes sure everybody's safe. He makes sure his children are safe, that we never want for anything. But the process is, if he has a boat that comes in, he may not have a boat for, 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. When it gets kind of bad, and they get depressed, and they go through their mood swings, you have to deal with that.
It's not a normal everyday job. It's different, and they come home with the stress of the job, where most jobs you can leave it at the office, or if you don't leave it at the office completely, you can kind of bury it. I don't think longshoremen can bury it. I think they bring it home. They might not talk about it, but it's with them.
A lot of credit goes to the guys who worked hard and everything else, but a lot of credit goes to the women, because in between time when there was a boat, they had a paycheck here, but they had to manage to stretch that paycheck. They did they could learn a lot in the United States from the way they took care of their economics, because you didn't always have a ship. You might work 2 weeks in a row, then be off for a week and collect Social Security. Right. And Social Security wasn't much then, but most families were large, but they made it do.
When anybody got sick, it was always a woman. Even though she might be sick, she still ran the house. She had to take care of everybody, even though her herself might be sick.
Well, my mother always worked, but she did prepare all the lunches when my father was working. There was always his mess kit and all that. My mother did all of that. That was her end.
Now, if he's working from 6 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning, I like to pack his bag where he has all 3 meals he needs in his bag, his hot coffee with his thermos. So I have to get him ready. So he doesn't have to worry about, I don't have this, I don't have my Advil if I get a headache. It's all there for him, which means, of course, I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to wake him up at 5 o'clock because I have to make sure that everything's prepared for him. Well, our pact is that he's to never leave that house without saying goodbye to me, because it can be a very vicious and a cruel craft. And God forbid, if anything happens to my husband, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him. That's devastating. And I couldn't live with that. So our pact is, and he's tried. Matter of fact, he's done it one time since we've been married, where he did leave the house. And he heard it probably for the next month. Every day I lit into him. You know, you don't leave this house without saying goodbye to me.
And when I got that call, I said I just knew I had lost him, because when you got that telephone call from the waterfront there, you just know you had lost your loved one, you know. By the time I got to the hospital and he arrived to the hospital, I still have him to this day, thank God.
A lot of the men, they saw a lot, and as big a man as my father was, very tall in stature, and he was very serious about his job, but yet I saw that grown man come home crying after certain men had either gotten hurt very bad or killed on the waterfront. So it was a very serious job, and a lot of people didn't realize the dangers, you know, that the waterfront does hold.
There was this day that he had to go and let the lines go. So he asked me, you know, just to take a ride with him, keep him company. So I went down, and it was a snowstorm, and there was ice underneath the snow. And the guy that was supposed to help him didn't show up. So he asked me to come out and help him. Now the ropes are like this thick, and you're standing on snowy ice. And my foot slipped, and I almost went into the bay. And that was the last time I'd go down there and do anything. But I tried to help.
So it is a process. It's not an easy life. It's a hard life, especially for him. Winters, summers, oh God, they work in, 112-degree weather?
Yeah.
So I've adapted him. I made him little things, headgear, where he wears like this thing. It looks like, what do you call it? Tennis players wear them. The head wrap. And I've taken some kind of like cloth, and I sewn it into it for him. So it hangs, and it looks like a genie with a hot hat on, but he can dip it in water and then slap it on his head, and it constantly puts water on him. So the whole thing's making him comfortable, keeping him safe. Dating Stevie, I tried everything I could to potty train this little girl. Denny would not be potty trained. Stevie said, that's it. He went out and bought her a potty seat and new books and sat on the bathroom floor with her. It took him 2 days. He trained her. I'm like, how did you do that? And that's when you see that other side, because they are crass, they're rude, they are a bunch of grizzly bears when they're together. It's unbelievable. They're dirty, they smell, of course, and then you see this other side where they are, I call, Stevie's got a golden heart. He's a gentle giant.
That's why I dated Marshall. For as rough and tough and miserable as he can be sometimes, he has this wonderful inner person that will feed the homeless. We drove to Boston one time to hand deliver a health and welfare check to a woman that was in a nursing home so she'd have it in time for Christmas. I mean, I don't know people that do things like that on a regular basis. He does things like that.
And that's why I can think it's fortunate, because I've been blessed to be able to see this, witness it in person as far as I've been able to. But it's unbelievable.